Hey, what's up? I'm Norris. Welcome back to my channel. Now today I want to let you know that my Simplicity pattern 9458 has been resized for kids, which is 9719. And nothing is different. All the pattern pieces are the same. They're just a bit smaller and all the order of construction is the same, okay? Now, hold up. This is not a learn to sew video. So if you're new to sewing or just need a refresher course, you can check out our courses at sewitacademy.com where we have unlimited amount of information for you, okay? Now let's get started. So we're doing view B, which is the pants in this actual video. The view A is going to be in the next video. If you turn to the back, you'll see the size chart. You can see where your measurements fall within when you measure your hips, your chest, and all the appropriate measurements depending on which garments you're making. Okay. The notions you're gonna need for the pants, you're gonna need two 7-inch zipper. You're going to need 5/8 of an inch elastic, and you're going to need 10 snaps. And you're also going to need twill tape or cording for the drawstring. All right, so let me flip this back over just to let y'all know the details that are in here. The snaps are down here at the bottom. It breaks away just like the old NBA windbreaker. That's where some of the inspiration came from. And then you'll see the vertical zipper pockets right there, and there's a side panel on the alt seam. So next we're going to go through all the pattern pieces for this particular garment. Okay, so first is pattern piece number 12. It's the front, and we're going to cut 2. And as always, don't forget to transfer all of your markings. The more markings and also notches that you mark and snip into, the better it is for construction. Next, we have pattern piece number 16. This is your back. We're going to cut 2 of these. Pattern piece number 13. This is your side front. You're going to cut 2 of these as well. Now, this is pattern piece number 17. Let me fold this up as you can see. So pattern piece number 17, this is the back pocket. Now, when I first made these for the sample that you see on the pattern cover, I noticed that I use my back pocket for my cell phone more than my wallet, and the cell phone kind of sticks out a little bit, and it was easy for it to fall out. So what I did was I just slashed and I just spread it a little bit to make a deeper pocket. Now, if you want to do that, it's simple. You just slash right there in the center. You just add in paper so you can get a deeper pocket. All right. If you don't need a deeper pocket, leave it exactly how it is. Pattern piece number 15. This is your front pockets. You're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining. Pattern piece number 14. This is the placket. You're going to cut 2 of fabric and also 2 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 18, this is your front casing. You're going to cut 1 on the fold, and the fold is right here. And then you also have a marking for your buttonhole, which is right here in the front. So don't forget that. Pattern piece number 19, this is your back casing. You want to cut 1 on the fold, and the fold is located right there. And then last but not least is pattern piece number 20. This is the elastic guide. You want to cut 2 of these. Now, I will be doing this out of a faux leather, but I do recommend you do it out of maybe like a French terry, a double knit, a scuba, or a ponte. Now, those are the type of fabrics that this garment is actually made for. I have a faux leather, has a little bit of stretch to it. I just wanted something different. So you can do it out of a faux leather, but it will be a little bit more difficult. For your first time, I will recommend that you do it out of the recommended fabrics, okay? Okay, so now once you cut out all of your pattern pieces out of your fabric and also interfacing, we can begin sewing. All right, so first things first. Before we continue, I want to explain why my snaps are already in here and why I didn't show you. If you look on the actual pattern cover, you can see these snaps, and this could be like the last thing that you do. but because I wanted hidden snaps, I had to put my snaps on first. You have the option to just completely skip what I did and wait to the very end to put your snaps in. Or if you want to do hidden snaps, this is how you do it, okay? So where your snaps placement go, the right side of your snap, the one that you normally would see, you would put that on the inside where your interfacing is, and then the right side of your fabric will have the opposite end of your snaps. So basically, when we actually sew this and we put it on, you'll see this on that side, and on this side you won't see any snaps at all, okay? So that's how you do your hidden snaps before we continue, all right? So once you make your mind up on how you want your finished design to be in this portion on the placket, you want to take your placket, and with right sides facing, you just want to fold it like this. And I'm going to say this a few times because I'm working with faux leather. I will be using clamps instead of pins, okay? You can ignore this if you have fabric, if you have traditional fabric, but if you're working with a faux leather or any kind of material like I'm working with, clips are going to be perfect. All right, so I'm just going to clip here and then down here towards the bottom. Now I'm going to head to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch across here using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and the same here across the bottom, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine, and as you can see, I stitched down both sides with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch or maybe 3/8 of an inch, depending on what's comfortable for you and how much bulk you get. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn this right side out. It's always good to have a point turner. Okay, now as you can see, the snaps are hidden on the right side. So now I'm just going to base the raw edge close, and then we're going to continue and place it on the front piece. Okay, so once you base that raw edge, you want to turn the right side. So this right here is going to be the right side. Right side's facing, and there's a notch which is right here. You want to line it up with the lowest notch. Now there's a notch here, 2 notches here, a notch here, and then that last notch right there, that's the one you want to line it up with, so you won't get confused. And then go ahead and pin or put your clamps in place. So now we're going to head to the machine, and we're going to stitch this down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So do that, come back, and we will continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and I went ahead and stitched down my placket. So moving along, we're going to work on the front pocket. All right. Now, I know this might be intimidating because of the whole zipper situation, but I'm gonna show you a real easy way to do it, and the instructions in this actual pattern is a good, easy way to do it. So I'm just going to follow along and show you how to do that process. Now, you should have put your markings. Now, if you have the top and the bottom of that marking, you're pretty much good because that's the only thing you need to line up. So now I'm just going to grab my lining piece, and with the right sides touching, I'm going to align the sides and then just put that there. Make sure it's flush on the side, and you're just going to go by the guideline of the lining piece now. Okay, so let me go ahead and put my clamps down. You can pin if you have that type of fabric. Okay, I might just do one more in the middle. So now we're going to stitch along our binding box. Okay, so just follow the marking with a regular stitch. Okay, so do that, come back, and we will continue. Okay, now that we're back from the sewing machine, I'm gonna go ahead and take my scissors, and we're just going to come out maybe a 1/2 inch from the stitching, and we're gonna cut diagonally into the corner, just like this. You're gonna cut to, but not through your stitching, and then the other side the same way. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine and we're going to do some understitching, which is leaving the seam allowance towards the pocket, and we're going to turn the pocket here, and we're going to understitch, which is basically edge stitching right on the lining side all the way across. And the instructions only say to do this particular portion, but I also turn down the side. I edge stitch here, and then I turn this way and I edge stitch here. So when I fold under, all of the fabric can go underneath. So when you do your zipper, you won't see any of the lining. Okay, so go ahead, do your lining stitch here. We're going to back stitch at the beginning and also at the end, break your threads. And then you want to do this one, back stitch at the end, and also at the beginning, break your threads, and then the same on this side here. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, I went and did edge stitch on the side and also across the front. And then now I'm going to turn everything towards the inside. And as you can see, you see the cutout here. So let me turn this around. If you're working with regular fabric and you can press it, go ahead to your pressing station and give this a really good press right now. It'll help it lay down. But because I'm using faux leather, I really can't press this like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to the next step. And I'm going to base down this side, and then I'm going to base down this side here. So first, let me go ahead and clamp it up real quick. And I'm just going to head to my machine. Okay. So once again, give it a good press. If you're working with material that cannot be pressed, go ahead and just clamp it down. Go ahead and base down both sides. Come back, we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. I went ahead and based down the sides here. Now I'm going to take my side panel, and you can see where your markings are for that pocket cutout. We're right sides facing. You just want to flip that up. So once we flip it over, we're going to clamp down the sides or pin. Go ahead and pin that down. And then here, you just want to match that up. You want to match that up right there. And then on this side here, the same thing. Now there should be 2 notches here for you to match up. And then right here, there should be a dot. And that's where we're going to stop stitching, okay? So you're going to stitch. So we're going to stitch from the top down to here, where our first marking, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we're going to break your threads, and then we're going to move down here, and we're going to begin back stitching at the beginning, and then we're going to stitch all the way down till we get to our dot. Okay, so once we get to our dot, you want to back stitch and break your threads. Okay, so do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. What you want to do is open up that seam allowance and give it a good press. If you're working with a faux leather or any other material close to what I'm doing, obviously we can't press it, but when you open up your seam allowance, you can edge stitch on both sides of the seam allowance, and you'll be able to have your fabrics laying flat. Okay, and I also did the same thing right here, so it can be nice and flat. And obviously this right here is going to stay like this for right now. And now we're just going to move along and put our zipper in. So like I said earlier, there are a few different ways to put in a zipper like this. The way I'm going to show you is one of the easier ways to do it. So with the zipper, obviously you're going to need a 7-inch zipper. This one right here is a little bit longer. I'm just going to cut off what I don't need. And at the top of the zipper tape, I went ahead and tacked them together just to bring them in a little bit, because you don't want them too far apart when you're stitching. So you just want to, you don't want them to pull too close, but just a little bit, as you can see right here. All right, so with the zipper tape facing up, I'm just going to slide this up under here, just like that, okay? So before I do anything, I want to make sure it's straight. I want to make sure the zipper tape is pulled all the way up so I know exactly where it should stop. So if this was a regular fabric, I would be pinning here, and then it would be a smooth transition to the sewing machine, and we're literally just going to start on one of the sides, back stitch at the beginning, and we're going to just add stitch here. And once I get here, because that zipper tape is pretty close, I'm just going to unzip it a little bit, and then we're going to go across, and then we're going to come across this side, and then we're just going to zip it right back up and continue it all the way around. Okay, and that's basically it. Okay, when it comes to putting that zipper in. So once again, go ahead and pin if you're using regular fabric so you can hold it in place until you get to the machine. And because I'm working with faux leather, I cannot pin this, and it'll be a little bit difficult to clip to, but I have a little bit more experience, so I can just hold it and set it and just do this up on the machine. Okay, so go ahead and edge stitch all the way around, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so like I said before, we're going to back stitch at the beginning and also at the end. And we're just going to edge stitch and make sure that zipper is straight down. Okay. Pivot, and now because the zipper teeth are right here, you want to be careful and take your time. Okay, then you continue. Pivot one more time, and then you want to continue all the way around. Now, right before I get to my zipper, I'm going to go ahead and unzip that. Okay, just so I can get all the way down to the end. Okay, going to pivot one more time. Well, now we're going to pivot one more time. And then back stitch. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, if you did it correctly, edge stitch around, you have a nice working zipper. All right, so now I'm going to turn this with the wrong side facing up. I'll go ahead and cut some of this off because I won't need all of that. It was too long. And then now I'm going to take the remaining bag for our pocket, which is out of fabric, and I'm going to just place it over the top just like this. Okay, but first I'm gonna put that zipper in the middle. Okay, and now I'm just going to clamp here on the top to keep that in place, and then here, and then I'm going to go ahead and clamp down that double notch there, and I'm going to continue clamping it all the way around. Okay, so the very first thing that I do, I'm going to take the seam allowance, I'm going to push it up this way. Okay, so because we add stitch, I can't get all the way there, but you want to get as close as you can without stitching into your front piece. Okay, so only stitching on your pocket bags and also your seam allowance that's facing your pocket bag. We're going to start there using 5/8 of a seam allowance, and we're going to stitch all the way around, and we're going to stop right before we get to that seam, and we're going to back stitch and cut your thread, and then we're going to flip back this way, and we're going to get as close as we can without stitching into our side panel, and we're just going to go all the way down close as we can. It's supposed to be 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, but if it don't give you 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, right here. You don't want to try to force it. And then, of course, move your zipper back and forth so you can be able to get your pressure foot across. Okay, so do all of that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. As you can see, I'm not quite at that seam allowance because I don't want to catch it. I just started here and then went all the way around to the other side, which is right here, and then across the top. And if you look here on this side here, when you open it up, you'll see leather. So now your pocket is complete. Okay, so moving along, we're going to work on finishing the edge of this, the side panel here. So just so you know how it's going to go, the snaps are going to snap down onto this piece, and that's how it's going to close. So I'm going to turn this wrong side up. And as you can see, this seam allowance is already turned from that. So I'm going to move this out the way so you can see a little bit better. And if this was regular fabric, I would just have you press down that 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and then take the edge and turn it into that crease. And we're going to finish it just like this. But because I can't press this, we're just basically going to measure that up 5/8 of an inch and then turn in the raw edge. And then I'm going to take my clamps and keep that in place. And I'm going to continue that same thing all the way down. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine and we're going to stitch it with the right side facing up. And we're going to adjust your needle so your needle can be exactly where that fold is so you can catch it closed. If you don't trust yourself, if you're not that experienced, you can have your bobbing on the top so you can just turn it with the wrong side up and you can see your needle going into that folded side. Okay, so that's basically up to you. I like having my top stitch on the top and my bobbin on the bottom. I like to feel and place my needle exactly where that fold is on the right side, okay? And you just want to stitch that all the way until we get up here, okay? So do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. As you can see, that stitch is right there on that fold. And then I have a nice top stitch on this side. And that's how it's going to be finished when you open up your snaps when you're wearing it, okay? So next we're going to move along and do our back pocket. Now it says cut 1, but if you want a back pocket on both sides of your back pieces, just cut 2, you know, so just do the same thing. But I just want 1, and I'm going to place mine on the right because I usually put my cell phone in my right back pocket. And so if you normally wear your wallet in your left back pocket or put your cell phone in your left back pocket, you can put it on the left side. So it just depends on what you want. You can do 2, you can do 1, you can do it just on the left, you can do it just on the right. All right, so let me put this out the way for just a moment. Okay, so with the right side facing down, the wrong side up, you're gonna take a 1/4 inch and you're just basically going to press it down. Now, because I'm using faux leather, once again, I can't press mine, so I'm just going to just demonstrate it like this. Let me just go ahead and clip down that 1/4 inch. So once you press it, that 1/4 inch down like this, you just want to turn it around and fold it back where that fold line is. I'll put 2 notches. I'll put a notch on one on each side to indicate where my fold line is. And then you want to keep that 1/4 inch just like that. Okay, so now we're just going to stitch this down and go all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then ending on this side here. Okay, so do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. I did a few different things. Once again, this right here is supposed to be face down. A quick note, I could probably use like some leather glue or something like that to really pin that down, but I'm pretty straight right now. I stitched all the way down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then off camera, I went ahead and did 2 rows of basting stitches just so I can ease in and have a cleaner round edge when we get this onto our back piece. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and clip some of this off. Just like that. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this right side out. Poke out that corner. And once again, the top is supposed to be tucked in 1/4 inch and it's supposed to lay flat like that. Okay. And before we turn this over and top stitch across to catch the bottom of this, we're going to gather just a little bit to get a round edge on both sides. Now, if you're not familiar with easing, it's basically 2 rows of basting stitches. You back stitch at the beginning, but not at the end, and you just pull your threads a little bit longer so you can get them to pull it in a little bit. Okay, and then as I'm pulling, as you can see, is rounding that curve off for me to make it a little easier. Same thing on both sides. So if you're using regular fabric, you can go to your machine and give this a good press. But first, I'm going to tuck in that 1/4 inch. Put a clamp down. Then do the same thing on this side. So I'm basically gonna keep that with my hand, keep that folded down with my hand, and I'm going to top stitch so I can encase that fold underneath right here. And then once you do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, I'm back from the machine, and as you can see, I went ahead and caught that folded edge underneath, and then this is what it looks like on the top. And then basically, you just want to make sure you take that stitch, which is your guide, and make sure that it's folded right where it needs to be at so you can place it onto your back piece correctly. And then also you have markings here to line it up. All right, so go ahead and put that where it needs to be. You can pin it if you have pinning fabric. If you have leather, you're gonna have to maybe glue down the edges or just hold it in place when you're stitching. Okay, so you make sure all that stuff is tucked in and edge stitch all the way around. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, the pocket is placed down and we have a nice curve, as you can see right here, because of the gather that we did. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our front piece and lay it over the back piece, right sides facing. There are a notch right here on that side panel that we should match up with the one on the back. Then of course the edge. Then you want to pretty much clip or either pin all the way down. Okay. You want to make sure you don't sew any of this, so you want to make sure that is out the way, even though it's far. So we're going to start on one side, and we're just going to stitch all the way up to the top, or start at the top and stitch all the way down to the bottom using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. I went ahead and stitched the back and the side panel together. If you're using a regular fabric, you can just press this to have your seams laying flat. But for the leather, you have to stitch on both sides of that seam close to the edge, okay? And that'll lay it flat. All right, so moving along, now since we have this all done, we're going to overlap. And you should have that line right there. So now we're just gonna head to the machine and we're going to stitch this down. You can add stitch and then you can stitch again a 1/4 inch away, or you can just do one stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from that edge right there, okay? And that'll keep that in place. So go ahead and stitch that down, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. We went ahead and stitched this down. So now that's secured. So next we're going to turn the front and the back right sides facing, and we're going to pin or either clip all the way across. Okay, so after you do that, you just want to start either from the bottom or from right here where the crotch is, using 5/8 of the inseam allowance. So do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine, and as you can see, I have the inseam and the outseam done. You want to do your other pant leg the same exact way, okay? Every single detail that we did on this leg, you want to do the other one the same exact way, okay? So the next step, we're going to take the one that's right side out, because you want one wrong side out and one right side out. Take the one that's right side out and you're going to just put it inside the other one. Pull it down. Now this automatically makes your pants right sides facing, okay? So you want to match up your inside seam where the crotch is. You want to match up your 3 notches right here for your back, and then you have 2 notches for your front. So you want to take all 3 of those and either pin or use your clips, okay? So the one in the middle, you want to make sure that that seam matches up, because you don't want a goofy offset seam. Okay, so now we're going to head over to the machine and we're going to start on one end and sew all the way across the crotch and up the other side using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. I went ahead and pulled my pant legs out and it looks like this. Go ahead and press that. If you have faux leather or if you have any type of material close to mine, you can just stitch on both sides of that seam and that'll let that seam lay flat as if you pressed it. So next we're going to work on our waistband. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on our front waistband. Now, as you can see, I went ahead and made my buttonholes. You can go ahead and do that too, as you can see, and I went ahead and split that in the center. And then now, once you do that, we can go ahead and grab your back, and there should be a notch so you can match up the sides. Okay, so let's head to the machine. You're just going to stitch both of these sides down here using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. After you do that, you can press that seam open, or if you have fabric similar to mine, you can just stitch on both sides of that seam and it'll lay that seam flat. Okay, so do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, before moving along, one thing that I did not mention, if you're using regular fabric, you can cut out a nice size square to put over where your buttonholes are going to go, just to give it a little bit more stability when you're doing your buttonholes. Okay, so next, since we've did our sides and pressed or stitched down those side seams here, as you can see, we're going to go ahead and turn it where it's wrong sides touching. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and clip this in place just for right now. You have 2 notches in the front. I'm going to go ahead and match those up And then you have 2 in the back. So the instructions are going to tell you to attach this first. But what I like to do is do my stitching lines first and then attach it, because you won't have your whole pants in the way. So what you want to do is, once you lay it down flat, you can take your ruler or measuring tape, and then from the fold line here, not the raw edge, the fold line, you want to measure 3/4 of an inch, and then just mark it. Okay, and then from the bottom, we're going to account for our seam allowance, which is 5/8. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 5/8 down. But then also from there, I'm going to measure up again 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so now you want to go to your machine and you want to mark out where 3/4 of an inch is on your machine, so you can put your needle in the right place. And you're going to stitch. And usually I start here on one of the side seams. I should have made those markings on the side, but once you position where your needle is, you probably won't need those markings. So you want to stitch all the way around, and then once you get about, I say, 1.5 inches away from your initial stitch, you want to go ahead, backstitch, and break your thread. Okay, so you want to leave that open. And then from your second marking, not your 5/8, that's going to be your seam allowance when you attach it to the pants, but that next one, which is 3/4 of an inch away from your seam allowance, you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to start at one of your side seams, stitch all the way around, and once you get about 1.5 inches away, you want to backstitch and break your threads. Okay, so do all that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, I've done my 2 rows. The middle should be like 1/2 inch. Just let me double check that. Yep, the middle should be like 1/2 inch, and then above it should be 3/4. And then after we do the seam allowance for the bottom, it's going to be 3/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch left. Okay, so since this is the front, you want to find where your buttonholes are, and right side's facing. You want to take that, and you want to match up your notch in the front. One in the front here, and then we have one on this side. So match that up. And then I'm just going to continue around, match up that side seam, making sure that they are exactly in the same place. And then you just want to continue pinning or clipping all the way around. Okay, now that we have it all pinned or clipped together, you just want to head to the machine, and we're going to stitch all the way around. And we're going to do it the same exact way. We're going to start on the side seam that we started the other ones, so all the way around. And when we get about 1.5 inches away from the start, we're going to backstitch and break your threads. Okay. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. And once again, it's 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so we're back from the machine. This right here is attached. When I turn it up, you'll see a finished waistband almost. We just have to add the elastic. Now I'm going to go to my side where I left an opening so I could put in my elastic. This elastic guide is for 2 pieces, the length of this, at 5/8 of an inch. Now I couldn't find any in my stash filming, so this right here is 3/4 of an inch. So I'm either gonna go with this or 1/2 inch at the moment. And then only thing you put in the middle is your drawstring. But for me, I like putting elastic on the middle too. So I'm putting 3/8 of an inch in the center, and then my wider elastic on the top and the bottom. But first, I'm just going to turn this around like this, and we're going to start at the outermost elastic row, and then the middle, and then the one here at the end. So just take a safety pin, and we're just going to put it up in there. And we're just going to shift it through. And we're going to do this all the way until we come out the other end. Okay, so when you come back out the other end, out the same end, rather, you want to pin this side or put some clamps down so your elastic won't go in on one side. And then just make sure everything is on the same, it's the same way. You don't want your elastic to be crooked. Okay. Now what we need to do is just head to your machine. And then you just want to overlap it like this and just zigzag it, or you can do up and down vertical stitch. It won't pop because it's pulling this way. And once you do that, you want to come back and we'll continue. Okay, so once you have the zigzag stitch, you want to pull it back in, and then it look just like this. Now if you don't want to put the elastic on the center, you can just go ahead and skip to your drawstring now. So you can put that in, and then after that, you can end with your last elastic on the bottom row. Okay, so do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, now that I have all three of my elastics in, the last thing you want to do is come over here to your band, and you want to go to the machine and then just close out each row here, and then also your seam allowance on the inside, and then you'll be done with the waistband. Okay. And if you did like me, and you went ahead and put elastic in, and you want to add drawstring too, I just add mine through my buttonhole all the way around and then out the other end, just so it can be on the outside and not having the elastic on the outside. Okay, so now we're gonna move along to the snaps. Okay, so now we're moving along to the snaps. Now, if you doing the snaps exactly how I did them for the pattern cover, and also the way that you see in the instructions, you will be doing your top snap here and then the bottom one here. If you're doing it the way I have, you should already have your top end. It should be hidden underneath, and the only thing else we have to add is the bottom portion. Okay, so whatever snaps you have, you just want to follow those instructions. But I will show you how to put in the actual bottom. It's the same way for the top. So since I have my top already in, I like to press down just so I can see that ring that it makes, so I know exactly where the middle is. Okay, so this is the bottom here. I'm gonna go ahead and push that through that hole. And then the snaps that I use, it has this plate that you put it in. This side right here is for the top because it's smooth, and this portion right here is for the bottom that I'm using now. So you just want to place that up under there. And then this right here goes on top of that. And then this right here is the bar that you hammer down. And just like that, you have your snap. Okay, so you want to go ahead and do your other snaps the same exact way. And then last but not least, we have the hem. Okay, so next is the hem. So for the hem, you have two options. The hem is 1.25 inches, so you can basically serge all the way around the hem and then turn up 1.25 inches and then stitch all the way around, stopping at this end. Or instead of serging, you can just turn under 1/4 inch and then turn that up, and then basically top stitch 1 inch all the way around until you get to the other side. Either way you do it is going to be optional depending on how you want it. And that's basically it. Okay, so once again, like I said, you just want to finish your snaps, whether you did them hidden like me or you're going to see them. and then also finish out the bottom of your hem. After you do that, you're all done. All right, congratulations. Now, I hope you enjoyed this sew along. Now, be sure to tag me at Norris Danta Ford on all social medias. See you in the next one.